And thanks for joining us here on The Pulse. Lawyers for the 18-year-old Precious Aita have all failed again for the third time in an attempt to serve the Electoral Commission. Now, according to lawyers, two previous attempts have failed because no EC commissioner has agreed to meet them and also to receive the application from the court. Well, the third attempt has been made today, and my colleague James Kwesiavechi has been at the EC headquarters monitoring the ensuing moments when, of course, the lawyers attempted yet again to reach out to the commissioners.
We've been here for almost 30 minutes now. Together, we came to meet the lawyer for the applicant as well as the bailiff. And in our interaction with them, they made us know that they've been here on Tuesday as well as yesterday, Wednesday, in an attempt to serve that contempt application on them, but nothing came out of that. So the third attempt is today. And the lawyer for the applicant is here with me, and so for the 30 minutes, he himself as well as the bailiff have been having some interactions with the police personnel at post here, and some persons who were going in and out of the EC premises. The lawyer joins me to tell us more on what they've been picking from the security as well as those who've been going in and out of the EC premises, and a bit more on that. And so thank you, counsel, for joining us. I've seen you interact with the police and other persons. What have they been telling you?
So far, the message has been simple, that we have to. Nobody's allowed to come in or out of. They are not admitting anybody into the EC's premises. That is the message we've been getting, and they've told us that if we want to serve anybody, we have to call the person personally, for the person to either come out to come and receive the process. So that is the information that we've been given. We've tried as much as possible to pull strings together so that, because the people that we are serving the EC chairperson herself, Dr. Bosman, and then one Mr. Samuel Tete. Those are the people and it is hard to reach them. So if we're given access, at least the bailiff could have gone inside to attempt service.
What was the reason for not allowing you into the premises?
They didn't offer any reason per se. I think the reason is instructions from above. Nobody is allowed to enter or move out of the premises. So we've been denied access once again.
What that means is that you would have to wait a bit longer to see if you can get access, or if you see any of the EC officials, you would attempt to serve them the application.
Like I said, we are trying to pull our strings and see if we can be able to effect service today. So we'll try our best to effect service today.
What does all of this mean to your application?
It's a contempt application, and the law on contempt application is that it has to be served personally on the respondent who is affected by the contempt application. However, if a bailiff attempts service for more than 3 times and the bailiff is not able to serve a particular court process, we are allowed, the applicants are allowed to apply to the court for the process to be served through substituted service. So if...
What does that mean?
Substituted service generally means that any means other than personal service. So the court can order that we paste the contempt application on the notice of the High Court Tema and then paste a copy on their notice board, or serve any person that we meet here, any official of the EC that we meet here. Because we've been trying more than 3 times, and it is now becoming practically impossible to serve the respondents to this contempt application. So if upon several attempts to effect personal service we are still unsuccessful, then our only option would be to apply for substituted service of the contempt application.
Would that, if the court grants you that and you go ahead to do that, would that allow the court to go ahead to hear the substantive issue even in the absence of the EC?
Yes. So substituted service is also deemed as service. Okay. So you can be served personally. So in the case of this particular application, the contempt application, the law is that the EC has to be served personally. Okay. But if upon 3 or more attempts to effect personal service, it is the EC is, excuse my language, evading or it is becoming impracticable or to cause unnecessary delay, then the law allows the applicant to come to court to apply for subtest service of that particular process that the applicant is seeking to serve. If that is granted and we effect the service through the mode of service granted by the court, it is as good as personal service. Okay. Then we can go ahead. Okay.
So how is your client taking all of this back and forth? How is she taking this?
It is a very trying moment for her, but she's in good spirits. We are just encouraging her because nobody should be deprived of their rights to be to vote or their rights to be enlisted onto the electoral roll. It is just unfortunate that we are here, but.
Okay, I want you to use the opportunity to give us a bit of education on all of this. We know that the original issue that went to court, part of it is about an injunction on the exercise, which shouldn't have been happening. What are the other issues raised in your suit?
Okay, so we have an originating motion before the court. Our client has filed a human rights application before the Tema High Court. The gravamen of our application is basically that the manner in which the EC is seeking to roll out the limited voter registration exercise will put heavy fetters or impediments in our client's right to be enrolled onto the electoral register. That is the gravamen of our case. So I can give you an example. So if a judgment has been entered against you and you apply to, let's say, the High Court for a stay of execution, and the High Court can grant the application for stay of execution. However, it can grant it on such onerous terms that grant is deemed as a non-grant. It's as if it has not been granted, even though in form it has been granted. Because of the conditions attached, it becomes in substance like a refusal. So you are entitled to refuse. So we are not saying that the EC does not have the right to compile a register or do limited registration. We are saying that the manner in which the EC is conducting the voter registration process, puts heavy fetters and impediments in the rights of a lot of people. Okay. And they can't go ahead. They are practically you are denying them of their rights to be registered onto the electoral roll. Okay. So that is why we are in court. So when we filed the originating motion, we filed an injunction application as well. Okay. So the injunction application was served on the EC. However, despite being served with the application, they decided to go ahead. And mind you, if we would cast our mind back on around May of this year, when the NDC, they were doing their presidential and I think parliamentary primaries, Dr. Dufour went to court concerning the voters register, and he was able to secure an injunction application. So he filed an injunction application. Same was served on the EC. The EC restrained her hand. The EC restrained her hand and told everybody that they can't go ahead because they can be cited for contempt. Okay. So why the double standard in this particular case? Okay. So that is why we filed for contempt, and we are just seeking to serve the contempt application.
Which, so far is failing. So what it means is that if by close of today you are not able to serve, tomorrow we should expect you back in court to get that.
If you are not able to serve by close of day, would advise our clients, and then we'll take the necessary steps.
Yes. By the way, has she been able to register yet?
She's not been able to register.
She's not been able to.
She can't register. She can't afford the distance between where she resides and the closest district office is over 40 kilometers. Okay. It is practically impossible for.
And the question is, although the distance, she's been able to come and file a case in Tema.
No, so this is a pro bono case. Okay. So our firm and a team of lawyers are helping people like that out. Okay. So we are helping those who are disenfranchised, who feel aggrieved by the decision of the NTC. That is basically.
Okay. Yeah. We wish you all the best, and that's counsel for the applicant Precious Aita on their third attempt to serve the contempt application on the Electoral Commission. We'll wait till the end of day to see what comes out of that. Reporting for Joy News, my name is James Aveji from the ET headquarters.
Well, James Aveji continues to monitor the exercise for us, but who's this individual actually aggrieved about the process, and what are her demands from the Electoral Commission? James is back in studio with us, and James, quite a very hectic day it has been for lawyers of this very young lady who we understand is a prospective voter. Tell us about, first of all, who she is, what her challenge is, and what she's seeking from the Electoral Commission through the courts.
Okay, so the applicant in the document, the application she filed in court is Precious Aita. She's 18 years old, and the document reveals that she hails from Afienya. And so from Afienya...
So Afienya, this should be the Greater Accra region.
In the Greater Accra region. Mm-hmm. And she came to file her case in Tema, High Court in Tema. And so two things she's seeking. One is an injunction on the process that started on Tuesday. That injunction, I'm told from the lawyers that immediately that is filed, it prevents the EC from going ahead to do that. And then the substantive case will be heard later. And so those two things she's seeking, that actually a human rights issue, that the proximity we've been all be talking about, that the state and form in which the EC wants to continue with, do the registration process, if should that continue, she as an individual would not be able to partake in that. And so her constitutional right to get onto the voters register and exercise her constitutional right on a voting day would be breached by the EC. That is a substantive issue which would have been gone into later.
Except for this challenge that the lawyers have about reaching the EC or their commissioners. But you know, it beats my imagination. How is this young girl able to file a case in the courts, Tema, right? Move from Afienya all the way to Tema to file this process? And of course, on another hand, she's complaining that, well, I can't go to my district office. It's a question that's come
exactly. That was my point of interest when I threw that to the member of the legal team. And so from his response, he says that this is a pro bono case, which would have meant that even her transportation from Afienya to Tema is taken care of by the lawyers, because she says that she doesn't have the resources to do that. And so her transportation...
So they're doing this free of charge,
all of this free of
without
charge,
any charge at all.
Which would include her transportation from Afienya to Tema, the court to do what she has done. And if she has to appear in court herself, would mean that the lawyers will have to take charge of that as well.
The Electoral Commission and the deafening silence as to why, you know, we simply don't have any response from them on this matter. Is it the case that nobody's in the building as we speak, or it might be the case that, yes, there are people working in, but the security officers do not feel it's the right time to go in? What's the explanation really to that?
Okay, so let me start by painting a picture for you how things pan out today. We know that they've been there on Tuesday. On Tuesday, when they went, they actually called the Deputy Commissioner of the EC, Dr. Sribo. Okay. And then they tell us that the response they had from Dr. Sribo is that they, the commissioners, are in a meeting. And so they should go and come back on Tuesday, which was Wednesday, which was yesterday. They went back on Wednesday. They tried reaching them. They couldn't reach anybody. And so when they inquired from the security on duty, they were told that nobody is in the premises. Everybody has gone on field to monitor the registration process, and so there was no one in to serve. And so they left, and then they came back today. Now today, when we got there before the team actually got there, so we walked to them. We spoke to the lawyer on why they were there. They told us why they were there, and then we walked with the lawyer and the bailiff to meet the police on duty. Now, the initial interaction, in fact, when we were getting closer to them, I got a signal from one of the security persons as to why I was approaching them. I told him that I was coming with the two gentlemen, but he signaled me to halt. And so when the lawyer and the bailiff interacted with them, they came back and then they gave us the feedback that this is what transpired. And in my presence, they tried calling the EC commissioners in my presence. The phone goes through and nothing happens. And then I asked the bailiff, he himself, what has he been told? He told me, in fact, there was a woman walking into the premises. So he walked and approached him and then talked to him. He said, she doesn't work there. And so for today, one police officer says that there is nobody in there, so they cannot. That
is the claim, right?
That
there's no one in the EC building,
and so they cannot access. And then another police officer, while we were about leaving, the guy approached him again. The lawyer and the bailiff approached him again, and then he says that the order from above is that nobody should have access into the EC premises. That is what.
That's an interesting point there. No one in the building, suggesting that perhaps no EC official is in the building working today. But that will also, could also, I should say, point to the fact that some of these officials are out there monitoring the limited voter registration exercise. Exactly. And you've been monitoring that exercise as well. Day one, some concerns emerging. Is it similar to, for instance, what the case Priscilla is putting out there?
Exactly. So day one, when I went to the Ridge office, which is the old EC, coincidentally, the old EC headquarters, that premises housed 5 different districts. So the 4 Ayawaso assemblies and then the Klotekole assembly as well. And so those 5 were there. Now, in my interaction with the number of persons I have interacted with, the registrants, all of them tells me that they were actually assisted to come to the premises to come and register, either an initiative by the assembly member of where they are coming from, or either of the political heads, which would be the member of parliament for the area, as well as John Dumelo, who is the NDC parliamentary candidate.
And this is largely because many of them are unable to provide the transport.
Are unable to get the transportation to come there. And the two of them, John Dumelo and the MP, actually confirmed to me that this is what they are doing. And the MP actually stressed that because there are 7 universities in her constituency and members of those universities are quite scattered across the country, she has actually arranged for transportation for them to come. And so, had it not been the assembly member or the 2 MPs, most of them wouldn't have the enthusiasm
the MP and the aspirants.
Aspirants.
Should be putting that in contest.
Most of them wouldn't have the motivation to come there, to come and register.
Okay, let's talk about tomorrow. Let's wrap up with tomorrow. What are we expecting from the lawyers of this young lady?
So, the explanation is that they needed to exhaust 3 days of personal attempt to serve this on the EC officials. After that, they would have to go back to court and secure an order of substitute service, if I get that right. And so that would mean that from tomorrow, if they go to the court and the court grants that, they will paste that in the premises of the court and then come to the EC and paste the contempt order, contempt application notice on their walls as well, which would mean that they have duly served them, although they haven't seen them in person. And so from there, then the court can go ahead and hear the substantive issue. I am also told that part of, if that issue should be exaggerated, either or any of the EC officials who have been cited in the case could be arrested, or if it's escalated further, could face some level of jail terms as well. And so from tomorrow, it will be escalated a bit further, no longer looking for them. They'll go for the order of substitute, and then the case proceeds from there.
Okay, grateful. James Aveji, monitoring developments for RAS here on The Pulse. And what we do know is that it was set up in the 1960s to actually supply the country's sugar needs and also to provide jobs in that process. that vision by our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to set up the Komenda Sugar Factory actually proved to be a game changer over time. The business weakened when Ghanaians started consuming imported sugar. Since then, there have been attempts by the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party administration to revive that same firm. But the result, as we know, a sad reality of failure, while thousands, if not, of course, millions of people who could have been employed there wallow in poverty. This afternoon, we're actually rewinding our advocacy for its revival. And what will it take to bring back the Komenda Sugar Factory is the question we're asking, which is now, of course, been left in that state to rot. Before we get there, though, and before we get into the conversation, here's a background to all of this in terms of the factory itself and how it has fared over the years. So we give you excerpts of what you see, of course, in that Joy News research, pointing out, the play of politics, first of all, and what the options are and the chances for the Komenda Sugar Factory. So we start off with issues relating to the the attempt was made to revamp it. We know that some $36.5 million in terms of loan from the Indian Exim was actually poured into that project. Additional $24.5 million from the Indian Exim, also credited facility made available for the fund in 2017. Then in 2020, some $28 million invested from the Park Agrotech Ghana Limited, trying as much as possible to complement the project. All of that, come to the extensive attempts that were made since 2016 to try and revamp the company. The expected number of jobs created to be created, actually, if the company were to be fully functional, would have been 7,300 jobs, with the production capacity somewhere ranging over a little over 1,200 tons of sugar, as we know it to be the capacity of the Komenda Sugar Factory. But all of that has been a challenge now, and President Akufo-Addo has been commenting on the status of the project, indicating that the approach used by the erstwhile John Mahama administration in establishing the factory goes against any form of viable business practice. And quote, he says that the approach is akin to building a house starting from the roof. That's how the president described the project. And since then, attempts have been made. The project, of course, as the president would indicate, that the entire project was overvalued. However, government would not look for more funds to go to waste on that. And so that's why we're where we are today with the challenges that is confronting the project as we speak. But for John Dramani Mahama, he doesn't seem to be taking that lightly. Of course, the play of politics has come into this. He's also responded, indicating that he's not foolish to set up a factory and have no plan or provision of raw materials at all. And the reason for which he believes that the current government is simply abandoning the project, which doesn't form part of its priorities. And part of the reason for which the NDC disagrees, he points out, first of all, to the fact that the project is part of that grand plan that we indicated earlier, with a package of $24 million from the Indian government, and that the current government, however, failed to apply for that funding to make that project viable, a reason for which we're where we are today. So these are some of the concerns raised by the NDC administration, as opposed to what it is that the president has said about the project. Is the reason for which we're having the conversation today. But first, though, a recap of this project that we've been talking about, the Komenda Sugar Factory.
It's a $36.5 million factory. This factory was revamped in 2016. The then President John Dramani Mahama outlined the reasons for the establishment of the factory when he laid the foundation stone to commence the construction in 2014. The factory was subsequently completed and commissioned in 2016 amidst fanfare, but was shut down 2 weeks thereafter. The shutdown of the factory dashed the hopes of many. The inactivity at the factory continued for 6 months before a new government, the Nana Akufo-Addo-led government, took over the reins of power. Residents were anxious to see the factory operationalized so that the promises that were made would be kept.
So this is the Komenda Sugar Factory. It is not its old self again. It's been painted inside of the factory. A lot of works are being done. They are fixing the bolts and nuts. You could see day and night workers here working vigorously to put the factory back in shape.
In and around the factory, some farmers have begun preparing a nursery on some 6-acre land around the factory. Residents of Kisi, Commenda, and its environs, who even though have seen some major works at the factory, are unconvinced that the current development and arrangement are for real and sustainable.
Last 2 months, when we heard the president that last April, which has come, he will come and commission the sugar factory and they will start the operation. We all became happy. But since then, April has gone. We haven't heard anything about it. So we are worried.
Isaac Kweku, another sugarcane farmer here, says he's seen the works being done at the factory, but his concern is with the raw materials to feed the factory.
I should know you do. Still means you doing the embassy. All the government to provide guiding my farmers, who to the assurance. When I fight in you, still, they be our different stories. They be our different stories. And some my farmers, they be where they would be assurance crop is what turning to be. Then you need in the BBR.
So as it stands, where will this factory get its raw materials? A member of the board of the new Komenda Sugar Factory and municipal chief executive for the Commenda, Edna Egwafo Ebrim municipality, Solomon Ebuapia, says they would rely on the farmers and also import unrefined sugar and refine it at the factory.
The moment we've kind of engaged the local farmers around to give us the sugar that growers, they've given us substantial amount of sugar to on 20th, perhaps we could start the test run of the production of the sugar of this month. So what it does mean is that it is not enough. So as we said, we've procured large tracts of land from Winneba Enclave section. Adwoa Safo, we have 22,500 acres of land, and the Shama Enclave and Commenda for the cultivation of sugar. We are importing raw sugar from abroad. The raw sugar means that it is not in consumable state. What does that mean? That we have to refine it. What we are doing it concurrently. Local, the little that we are having and that of them. So the presumption is that after 1 or 2 or 3 years, what it does mean is at that time we planted the sugar cane, everything is ready, and we stop importing, and we'll be relying solely on the raw material from our local base.
Even though the factory is yet to be operationalized, some residents of Commenda have begun boosting their resources. Grace and her colleagues believe they would have made much to support their families if the factory was working as they promised them.
So Jumano Quada, Abemdo, I have a nije, a quantifa, a human hitama, a beer to con, so Jumawaha, a quantifa.
The situation here has made many of the youth travel out of the communities to neighboring countries to look for greener pastures. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenya Akon, Cape Coast.
And thanks for staying with us. Joining us now is Ransford Vani, who is a former board secretary for the Komenda Sugar Factory, joining us for a brief conversation on this. We've seen the reports for ourselves, and we're just wondering, of course, where did we go wrong, and how can we revamp this factory, which is crucial for boosting economic growth within the area that it is situated for the central region. People of the central region. When you look back at the original plan and where we aim to go with that factory, are you disappointed based on what you're saying today?
Yeah, let me say good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. It's very, very disappointing, This factory is very viable, and looking at its viability, I don't think any government that has a nation at heart should let it sit idle whilst we import millions of dollars sugar into this country per annum. Over $400-500 million per annum sugar importation, and it affects the local economy of this country. So I am very disappointed. I'm very passionate about this Komenda Sugar Factory because I know how it will help solve minimize the importation of sugar. But it seems the government of the day is not willing. The government lacks the political will to operationalize the factory.
I was just putting on the screens earlier the position of the president on this, indicating that the project is as though we started from the wrong place, building the roof even before the foundation of the project. Is the Komenda Sugar Factory not a case of a business gone wrong?
See, I think the president made this assertion in October 2021. Where I was wondering, somebody who read economics at the University of Ghana doesn't understand the backward integration approach in setting up a factory. It's not always that we go into the forward integration. In sugar production, we do what is known as backward integration. So you don't grow the raw material before you put up the factory. Everywhere in this world, sugar factories are built, the factories are built before the plantation because sugarcane is a perishable crop. So, for instance, if we had grew all the sugar canes before we built the factory, which milling plants would mill those canes that will be developed before the factory? And what the president was saying, maybe the president is uninformed because 2004, former President Kufuor promised the people of Commenda that he's going to build a factory at Commenda. So people started going into the cultivation of sugarcane. They cultivated sugarcanes. Some went for loans and others to grow the sugarcanes. If you remember, Honorable Kennedy Japan once accused the people of Commenda of destroying some farms that he developed, the sugarcane farms. Meanwhile, there was no sugar factory. So where were they selling those factories to? You know what? All the canes available at the time, they sell it to Apeteshi distillers.
That's what they are doing now.
Yes, that's what they've been doing
over the years.
After the Kwame Nkrumah Sugar Factory collapsed. So if you grow before, which milling plant is going to do so? So under John Dramani Mahama, you have to put up a factory there. It gives hope to the farmers that now there's ready market. So if they cultivate more of the crops, at least the market is ready for them. So it gives them hope.
That's something that have been done.
So President saying that it's starting on wrong notes.
You don't agree with that?
Yes, he doesn't because go to everywhere in this country.
The factory needs to come first.
Whether Brazil or India, it's built before. Not even Mauritius here in Africa.
Right. And that's what you're calling the backward integration. The MP for the area, Samuel Tamils, is also joining us. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us. Clearly, a former board member of the committee, of the Komenda Sugar Factory, not happy about what the status of the firm is now. It's almost as though it's non-existent. As MP for the area, how do you plan to, bring back the discourse, at least in Parliament, and to get government to dedicate and focus its attention on the project?
Thank you very much, and then greetings to everybody, including my brother Vinny out there. It's a disgrace that this NPP government, led by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to neglect this sugar factory. It is all a case of politics. Just because they were not the ones who started it, they do not want to operationalize this. This Komenda Sugar Factory was dreamt about a long time ago, during the time of Professor John Evans Atta Mills. We knew very well there was an old sugar factory close to the ocean, and now this one is a much stronger machine, much stronger factory, and it's away from the ocean. This would have provided so many jobs, 7,000 direct and indirect jobs over there. Look at the number of people that we could take off unemployment. It is a disgrace. It's just that they don't want to operationalize it just because they didn't start it. That is the problem. I have gone to Ministry of Trade several times. When Honorable Alan Tramantin was there, he would tell you, I went there several times to try and find a way that we could operationalize this. And some time ago, they brought in this guy, paraded him around as a strategic investor, which they knew very well that he didn't have the capacity to operate the sugar factory. Now they've brought somebody else who also I know, who is capable of operationalizing this. But they need to give him some money. He has done a lot of repairs over there. They need to give him some money. They do not want to give him the money.
And which company is this?
The latest company, the name has escaped me.
Watco.
But I know that.
Watco, he says? Vanny says Watco?
West Africa Agrotech.
Agrotech? Is
Agrotech.
That yeah, right.
Yes.
West
Africa. Right, okay.
Yeah, that is a new one out there. Now, would you believe that the new Minister for Trade said in Parliament that this Komenda Sugar Factory has been an albatross on the neck of this government? What a disgrace. Now, people of KE, Commenda, Edna, Eguafo, Abrem, the people of Central Region, the people of Ghana needs to know that here is a government. You wait 2024, they will come around and give us all kinds of promises. But here is a factory that could be providing jobs. Come to Commenda. I will take you to Commenda. Commenda is now a ghost town. Most of the youth, most of the hardworking people have traveled outside the country. You go there, it's grandmothers who are taking care of some of the grandkids. It's because there are no jobs. These people could be providing, this factory could have provided jobs. We could have produced sugar that would have cut down on our expenditure. Our usage of foreign exchange to import this sugar. My goodness. Do you know the byproducts that this sugar factory can provide for us? It is just a share of wickedness. It's just a case of them not wanting to do anything. They do not care about us. They were talking about one district, one factory. We have one district, two factories, fish processing plant, which they have also neglected. But the main thing, Komenda Sugar Factory, they claim we didn't plant sugar cane before the factory. Anybody who knows anything about sugar or farming knows that sugar canes take about 6 months to about 8 months to mature. Now, the factory was finished ahead of schedule. Once the sugar passes 6 months or 8 months, the sugar content keeps on reducing. So why plant this sugar cane 2-3 years ahead of time? That sugar cane will be nothing. What happened to the $25 million facility that the NDC government got before we were asked to go home? I'm so passionate about this. It's a disgrace to this government.
I see.
And it will always be an albatross on their neck.
And on that note, are you willing to make yet another attempt, at least just to make that case before the president, make that case to the sector minister to try and relook at the project just one more time?
It's a waste of time to go to this government. We pray that 2024, December, Ghanaians, and especially those in Central Region, we are going to vote for NDC to come to power 2025. And I assure you, when we come to office, within a few months, we will operationalize Komenda Sugar Factory.
Yeah, Honorable
This
Member of
government
Parliament, I'm asking the question because 2024 is too long a time for us to leave the strategic project to rot away. At least you'd want your people to stay, to have some jobs to do.
Yes, but the government in power has neglected to do anything. The number of appeals that we've made, the number of questions that we've asked the Minister of Trade, they always give us mumbo-jumbo answers. Go to the ministry and talk to the officials at the ministry behind closed doors, and they will give you the reason. There is no political will to operationalize the sugar factory. The minister himself has said this has become an albatross. They're not going to operationalize it because they feel they are not going to get any credit. The same way that other projects started by other governments ahead of them, they can be neglected. They are not interested in Ghanaians. Maybe they are only interested in pulling boxes from underneath their beds and then it turns into euros and dollars.
I'm just wondering, Vani, what you're also thinking in studio now, listening to the MP for the area. It appears that nothing can be done at this moment. Do you have any other recommendations? At the time when you were on the board, what were some of the recommendations at least to get more and more private membership and support for this project?
This project was a fully Government of Ghana project. 100% owned by Ghana.
Okay, 100% ownership.
Yes, 100%
okay. So no opportunity for the private.
No, we wanted to flow shares.
Okay,
at least 70% shareholding by private and
at
government,
the time,
30%.
Yes.
But it's as we are speaking, it's 100% owned by the Government of Ghana.
Right.
And we had 2 tranches of loan. One that is $35 million for the sugarcane, the factory itself, $35 million, and the counterpart funding of $1.5 million was provided by EDIF, now Exim Bank of Ghana. Then we had the second tranche, which was $24.54 million. That is solely for the sugarcane development, irrigation system, and outgrower scheme. That money we use to support the outgrowers to grow more so that when we go into the peak production, we wouldn't have any problem in terms of the availability of raw materials. And everything was done. The factory was completed. Everything was absolutely done. It was left with the sugarcane, money for the sugarcane development. So 2016, we developed 125-acre nursery plantation, which ought to be transplanted onto 10,000 acres by February 2017. Then the government changed hands. Now the new government took over because they did not have any plans to operationalize it. They left everything abandoned, and even 2018 they sold the sugarcane on that 125-acre land to Apeteshi distillers because they were not ready to run it. But if this factory would run, the government must back with the political will. Because I listened to the MC. If you listen to the interview, said their interest was to import raw sugar to be refined at Commenda. When it's a raw sugar is a brown sugar. When you produce sugar, the first crystallized sugar is brown. So you refine it to make it white. So they are bringing the brown sugar into Commenda and refine it. And I made a statement that it doesn't make economic sense because this factory was an import substitute factory. It's not there to import sugar to be refined here. It happens. You rather enhance the business of the importers. And there are some cartel within the importers who are working hand in hand with the government to ensure that this factory does not run, because if it runs, it minimizes their business. So that is the whole thing.
Yeah, but the point is, we haven't seen, there's no evidence as of now. But you're the one telling us. So.
Fine, I'm the one telling you, but I know what is happening in the industry, and nobody has been able to challenge me. Because, you see, in 2018, this factory, NPP has been talking about the unavailability of raw material. But they sold sugar canes on the the factory's own farm, 125, to a company, MIM in a Hartford region. That is MIM Cashew and Agriculture Products Limited. This is a company, somebody's entity. If I'm lying, they can take me on. And I have been saying this number of times. Nobody has been able to defute that argument. So on what basis or what moral rights do they have to tell us that we did not plan about the raw materials? Because if you're saying that all what you need is a raw material, that is it.
Actually, I need to point out also that we've made attempts to hear from the Trade Ministry on this matter. For now, no comments, as all the officials are not available readily to comment on the matter. I will get some reactions for you. But Suleiman Yusuf is also a member of the Trade and Industry Committee of Parliament. He is the deputy ranking member. He's also joining the conversation. Thank you, sir, for your time. We have the MP for the area, Honourable Samuel Tamils, who has just spoken to us about, several attempts just to get the ministry to respond and to try and indicate what the future of the project will be. From your perspective, is there anything else you can trigger, maybe at the committee level, from your end as leaders of the committee, to try and get some answers? Because the factory is rotting away. Suleiman, you see if you can hear me. I'm just asking if there's anything more you could try doing just to help the MP for the area, restart the conversation and to try and get government's attention to deal with this.
Let me thank you so much, and to thank Joy for developing interest in this project. Before I answer your question, I think it's important to situate our discussion in a manner that people will appreciate the relevance of this factory. The NDC government, under His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, in 2016 thereabouts, in fact 2015, with his cabinet realized that there are some, if you like, commodities that are very essential for us. Unfortunately, these commodities are always imported. And so one of them is rice, you have poultry, you have sugar, and also you also have rice. Now, the then government decided that they were going to handle these issues because they form a very high value in terms of our import bill. And so they started approaching them one after the other. I was then working with SM Bank, okay? So there was what you call the Broader Revitalization Program. We also had what you call the Rice Revitalization Program. And then also this sugar factory also came out. And like my brother at the studio told you, some loan was taken from the India SM Bank. And then the Ghana SM Bank, then it was EDIF, also added some money. Again, the Parliament of Ghana had approved about 24.5 million US dollars to take care of the outgrower scheme in order that we are able to produce sugarcane to feed into this factory. In fact, there was a test run that produced about 83 bags of sugar. And this was commissioned by His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama. Unfortunately, he lost power, and one would have thought that the Nanado government will continue from where he ended. Unfortunately for us, because they didn't want him to take credit, what they decided to do was to allow the project to deteriorate. What they did was to ask that Pricewaterhouse should go in there and do some kind of investigation and to come out with a report. The question I've always asked the minister and the government is, have they been able to implement the document that they themselves commissioned, the outcome of the investigation? There was a document that spelled out what they should do going forward. They decided to abandon that recommendation, and the factory deteriorated.
What did that document say? What did the document say?
In fact, one of them was that they should immediately refurbish it because it was rusting. Again, they had told them to continue with a company that the government had contracted to construct, to handle the outgrower scheme. They refused. And then they decided that they were going to sell it out. At that time, I had brought the Minister of Trade onto the floor of Parliament, and I asked him why he wasn't implementing the recommendations. There was no any answer to it. Deliberately, it was for them to ensure that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was not credited to the successful project that he had implemented in terms of refurbishing the Komenda Sugar Factory, and also ensuring that there was provision for enough raw material so we are able to process. Again, in that document, they were told that, look, immediately, even before you handle the outgrower scheme to get raw material, import some kind of sugar in the state we call molasses. Then you can use that one to keep the factory running whilst you support outgrowers to be able to give us raw material. They refused and decided to sell it out. All of a sudden, we were told that, oh, there was going to be a strategic investor. And that strategic investor was taking through all the processes, and Cabinet had approved him to be the one to take over the factory. Unfortunately, we followed them through. I had asked the minister several questions as to when the strategic investor will start. Fortunately for them, there was COVID. And so quickly the minister said, oh, because of COVID, in 2020, because of COVID, the strategic investor couldn't take over. That was when he had gone.
We'll try and reconnect with you, C. Sulemana. But let me find out from the MP for the area, Honourable Samuel Atemils, what the way forward will be. You've indicated that the only way out is to kick the government out of power and to bring in the NDC to solve the problem. In the meantime, as MP for the area, what plans do you have, knowing that the youth are indeed on the lookout for some other job opportunities? Would you want to call on them to pour out onto the streets, at least to demonstrate and register their concerns, or you have simply another plan for them?
There have been attempts to go on street to demonstrate, but this government has deaf ears. They've decided not to do anything with this factory. So what we are trying to do is trying to encourage people to acquire lands, hoping that we would come to power in 2025 and then we'll revive this sugar factory. But for the meantime, up to 2025, it's a long way. That is part of the reason why a lot of the people have left the area. Our fishing that they could do has also gone down. They don't even get premix for them to go fishing. So I don't know what these people want us to do. And you wait. 2024, they will come to that area and come and campaign. And we'll also tell them what we think about them. You haven't provided us jobs. We have a ready-made factory that you could operationalize, and you have refused. You have refused to operationalize it. This is really sad. This is really sad. And that should tell you the idea of this government. Now, other people have gone into other cash crops that are not enough. But this sugar factory would have been a very big boost economically for that area. And also for Ghana, for us to save a little bit on foreign exchange. Now, what I would suggest, you ask Price Waterhouse that in October of 2016, they valued this factory at $35 million US. Less than 10 months when NPP government came to office, they valued this sugar factory at $12 million. What kind of accounting is this? Somebody needs to explain to me.
I see. Well, the president's comments are coming up sharply. The fact that he's made some public pronouncements on this. I want us to listen to that, and then we'll get some reactions again.
Still, some civil works are being done there. Nyampa, by the end of March, it will be completed. And they say planning no Indian phone about whenever Virginia about no say by April production will have begun of the sugar factory. Sugar factory about the some case here. It been say 1 year, Zuko here, na akwaba kwa nyame adaroma afedia emse muamma hu se isikwan paso na eba nti ye hwenya me se by April no na nyama so atuya bebekwani.
Well, the initial assurances from the president, but that did not work.
It don't work. You know, the president also made a second pronouncement within last year. On the 3rd of September last year, he came to Commenda.
Okay.
And when he came there, he promised them that by the close of 2022, he was going to commission the factory in a grand style. 2022 is past. That promise was made exactly a year ago on the 3rd of September. When he went there, they said they had done some test run. So everything is set. You know, Honorable Atamils was talking about certain works that a company, West African Agrotech Company Limited, Watco had done.
Right.
They did some sandblasting and paintings there. No machinery was changed. The machines that were installed during 2014, between 2014 and 2016, are still there. And you know, these machines have lifespan over 50 years. So it has a warranty of 10 years, a 10 years warranty and a 50 years lifespan. And if we do routine maintenance and servicing, the factory would be there to produce and have the value for money. But because the government of the day, the NPP government, does not see the need to operationalize it because somebody may take the credit. Everybody knows that this factory is a dream of President John Mahama and Atamels's presidency. So they have to do something else. That is why I'm saying that we need to be very, very critical on this government. And we need to let the people understand why the government does not want to run the plants. Because, you know, for the past 7 years, the money is still there. The $24.54 million, which was to be assessed by 2017 February, that money is still there. So why do you still complain about the availability of raw material while the factory is sitting idle? Just recently, the current Minister of Trade and Industry, Katie Hammond, was complaining about the factory being an albatross on the neck of government. How could this factory become an albatross? Does it mean that you don't have any plans? Does it mean that you don't have any focus? Because there's a factory that the government that talks about 1D, 1F. And with the 1D, 1F, if you come in the factory, within the Commenda, Commenda Edna Egwafo alone, we had a sugar factory and fish processing plant. You abandon all these two projects and rather trying to revive or support some individuals, and these individual companies, they are crying.
Okay, just hold on for us, because you know, we've also been doing further checks at this very facility. Features editor Jojo Kobna has been there. Let's just watch excerpts of that report, and then we get more reactions.
This is the factory that is supposed to be producing sugar, but it has been idle for 5 years. The roof is rusty and worn out. Before we get into the details of the current state of the factory, let's trace how Ghana found itself in this situation. It may sound basic, but Ghana had a dream to start producing sugar locally. Hence the rebirth of the Komenda Sugar Factory. The old factory, built in 1964, became defunct about 30 years ago. A loan of $36.5 million was invested into the factory. Resuming operations at the factory was a perfect opportunity to do things right this time around and cut down on Ghana's importation of sugar.
So as I speak, every single cube of sugar, every single grain of sugar that we eat here in Ghana is imported from outside. Commenda is going to change that. It is my honor and my pleasure to declare the Komenda Sugar Factory will be inaugurated.
Excitement created the commissioning of the sugar factory in 2016.
The inauguration of the Komenda Sugar Factory will provide jobs. It is estimated that in full production, this project will provide direct and indirect jobs to an estimated 7,300 people.
Unfortunately, the facility shut down in July 2016 because of inadequate sugarcane. It was due to reopen in October 2016, but never did to date. Since then, there have been a flurry of promises to get the factory running.
Because summer here into so here, Emma factory to me the amount of land we need for the sugar, the type of sugar we can grow here, all those things were not properly organized. I think our organization, the ASR organization, and also the between strategic investor, and also it to me about Robert Bisonu, Nanche. But
it took 2 years before the government announced a new investor for the sugar factory.
This factory, like any other factory, will keep on needing ongoing investment, ongoing retooling, and if that is done, definitely it will keep running and it will bounce back.
When are you starting work?
We are waiting for the final agreements to happen. After that, we'll start working.
It is past the second week of August, and the Komenda Sugar Factory remains closed. Currently, the facility is in terrible shape. A comparison of the factory in 2016 and 2021 shows the factory is deteriorating.
There sits the Komenda Sugar Factory in its rusted glory. It has been abandoned for so many years. It is not producing sugar. And there are so many youth in the community needing jobs, and they have none.
The plates and rakes that would carry the sugarcane for crushing have rusted. The new investor would have to spend more money to revive a new factory that was shut down just months after commissioning. A journey to the roof with a drone reveals further deterioration. Parts of the roof are rusted, worn out and torn. The roof is riddled with holes, and with the onset of the rains, it is obvious the rains seep into the factory. A group calling itself Concerned Citizens of Commenda is upset. Their convener, Samuel Awuja, is dismayed.
I quite remember about last 2 years, the Trade Minister, Honorable Ahunkalin, said the traditional area should look for land. We've been able to do that. We've been able to secure about 3,500 acres of land, even far beyond the expected 2,000. So as for the land we already have, it's now left to the government to come and operationalize. So anybody who talks about sugarcane and land issue, it's a non-starter. They shouldn't even go there, because we have land available, and then the sugar plantation was also done. You know, it takes 6 months for the sugarcane to be ripe for the factory. When the government came in, it's been 5 years.
The land reserved for the cultivation of sugarcane around the factory has been left fallow, and along the beaches of Commenda are people yearning to be employed once the factory is reopened. Joseph Eshen is unemployed. His friends, who could not stand the pressures of unemployment, have migrated to Accra and other parts of the country, hoping to get non-existent jobs. Sharing their disillusionment and absolute displeasure, the residents pleaded with the president to fulfill his promises.
What time no see necessarily more sugar factory or musu pade taxpayers money and I been akwa help say baby no da be the madi so won wie na ban fofo abada no so what na adwo dem e corner abenda da ogbe no what na adwo ho na adni so na adni rust aben wadi ehwemo bebre akofo adno aben wadi ehwemo bebre alba bet na the promise akohwe promise ngotin alba na the promise akohwe ngotin nti akofo adwo wadi ehwemo especially Commenda for wadi ehwemo as Komenda Sugar Factory be about to do that man ebe no waje mu ankasa ho krade This I didn't want there. Say aben biba. Na be I did this one more year. Aben for ba. I don't continue. You know what you are doing more. This is Ghana. Damana wa badma. Yaditi. Akawana. This is Ghana. This is Ghana. Akawa wa bad. Busi akwa bobo na mana. Ni da ba ye. Muntujuma. Ye ma ba for abama. No so am so dem me ya listen. Why ye wankasa. On my fix your sugar factory man. Na ye rules.
Now we are doubting them so much, and we don't believe them. The fact is that for a first term of office, 4 years, and a second term of office, all this was strategic investor. It has been given to strategic investor. At least, of course, we are young guys here, and such promises have been coming and gone, and we are not seeing anything. So for now, we don't trust them.
Sugarcane farmers are also disappointed. The secretary of the Sugarcane Farmers Association, Adwoa Safo, says his members are now frustrated because they have to give all the harvested sugarcane to Akpeteshie distillers at heavily discounted prices. This is because the supply of sugarcane is more than the current demand.
Okay, except of what, of course, features editor Jojo Komenda put together, I still have the MP for the area, Samuel Atamils, also Yusuf Suleiman, who's a deputy ranking on the Trade and Industry Committee, joining us, as well as Vani, who was the former board member of the Komenda Sugar Factory. And Vani, you were just indicating to us now that the sandblasting and some of these processes we've seen the government undertake cost the states over $10 million.
Well, $11 million.
11?
Yes.
And yet the factory is not back.
Exactly. They took $11 million, and my checks from the Parliament means that even the Ministry of Trade, the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism is not aware of this, the price I'm quoting today. Because, you know, when the minister went to the floor of Parliament about answering the question from Honorable Yusuf Suleiman, he was asked about the amount they spent on the factory, because he was saying that they've done some retooling and all those stuff. But, you know, if you talk about retooling, there was not even motto.
Did he add anything to the factory?
What they only did was that they have added silos. Those silos, because, you know, the factory was originally designed to do end-to-end production. Okay. That's put the cane to the cane yard, mill the cane, and the end product, you get a white sulfurless sugar. Yeah. So there is no way you can import raw sugar and refine at Commenda. So because their agenda is to import raw sugar, as the MC indicated, so they built some silos at the refinery so that those silos could hold the raw sugar so that they can refine. That is the additional something that they've done. And because of the raw sugar, they also trying to construct another warehouse. That warehouse is still on the foundation stage. So that warehouse, they will store the raw sugar, which will be imported onto that. Then when they refine, the existing warehouse will store the refined sugar. That's what they've done.
So this is part of government's plan, I believe, just to try and make it operational, but yet all of this.
But it's just a hoax. It's a hoax.
Come to fruition.
They are not trying.
As you're pointing out, we haven't seen as of now. If you're saying it's a hoax,
oh yeah, it is.
We haven't seen
because
as of now.
But that's not the first time they promised the
your description of the
they've given series of promises. They've given series of promises, and they keep failing on the promises. Because as I told you, on the 3rd of September, the president said that by the end of 2022, he's going to commission it on the grand style. And that grand style has never happened.
Honorable Yusuf Suleiman, the point about, you know, the further expenditure we're making on this factory, even though it's not operational, how do we get government, you know, and the ministry especially to account for what's happening?
Kojo, that is the major issue that some of us are battling with. And that was why I brought the new minister to the floor of Parliament to tell us how much it has cost them to retool the Komenda Sugar Factory. Unfortunately, the whole minister could not tell us how much was spent on the project. You know, these people, they are out of ideas when it comes to the Komenda Sugar Factory. Indeed, the minister had a private conversation with him, and it seems to me that they will need some kind of intervention in terms of ideas. Clearly, the project is a good project. Clearly, His Excellency, the former president, had done what was supposed to be done. They came and they ran the place down. Now you ask them questions, they are running away. You won't believe it. The minister was telling me that I have just come, and the way you are asking me questions, it's my responsibility to ensure that you account the good people of this country, whatever penny that you've taken. Now, they have taken loans, and they have involved a foreign company without coming to Parliament for approval. That is wrong. They accused the John Mahama administration of not coming to Parliament to seek approval before engaging the company called Septec. They have gone to do West. And so for me, it's a very serious issue. And we will continue to ask them to account to the good people of this country. And then I can tell you that the good people of that area are aware that they have failed them, and that come 2024, they will boot them out. And then His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will come with the ideas that he has for the company and for the factory, and then to continue with it. I think for me, that is the way forward. I can assure you that Nana Addo and all his ministers have run out of ideas. And that was why the minister said that it has become an albatross around their neck. The president, you heard him clearly. He said that certain things were not done well, and that they were going to do them well. Almost 7 years down the line, you've not been able to do them well. When again are you going to do them well? So clearly for me, it's a total failure, and I can assure you that the NDC government will ensure that people are held responsible. They have caused so much loss to the states, and that is an area we must also look at. You cannot commission an investigation into a project. You have paid money for it. They give you recommendations, and you share those recommendations. And so the project, and for that matter, the factory deteriorated the more. We don't do that. If it was Alan Chermante's money, if it was Nana Akufo-Addo's money, would they have allowed the project to deteriorate the way it deteriorated? Clearly no. And now the new minister has come, and he has no ideas at all as to the way forward. So clearly, the people are waiting for John Dramani Mahama to come and continue from where he ended.
Well, Honorable Samuel Atamils, if the decision is made by government that at least in the interim, we use the factory to process the already imported sugar at the raw stage, is that something at least you would accept or welcome, knowing that it's a better option? Is that something you would welcome?
No, it's not a better option. Do you know how expensive it is to import the raw sugar and process it here? If that will provide jobs for my people in Commenda, Edna, Egwafo, Abram, that would be all well and good. But the purpose of this factory was to produce sugar here and to provide jobs. Now, let me ask you this. NPP people will tell you that we didn't have the raw materials. That takes 6 months to 8 months to mature. That is the sugar cane. We have given them 7 years. Sugar that takes 6 to 8 months to mature, we have given you 7 years. Why haven't you produced the raw materials? If we didn't do it, 7 years you can't provide the raw materials. We have the land over there. People are ready to go and work on the farms. Give them some tractors and everything else, the $25 million facility that was to help some farmers to produce these things. Let them go and work. We will produce the sugar needed for this factory. NPP, you said we didn't provide sugar. We didn't provide raw materials. We gave you 7 years, and you can't even claim 1 stick of sugar cane. The president, I may give him a little bit of a pass because he really doesn't know what he's talking about, and he wasn't briefed properly. And those who briefed him should be very, very, very ashamed of trying to tell this man that we didn't do things right and that he was going to inaugurate it. Where are those people who advised him? And any other president would have fired these people for pushing him to the front line to go and disgrace himself and give so many promises and not fulfill it. We, the good people of Commenda, Edna, Eguafo, Abrem, we are waiting for this factory to be operationalized. But you know, another disgraceful thing, go to Komenda Sugar Factory. They've put up a big sign out there, and it's part of one district, one factory. Ha ha ha.
I see. Interesting times ahead. I'm grateful, Samuel Atamelsus MP, for the Commenda area, and also to Yusuf Sulemana for helping us do the discussion. Vani, your final words as we wrap up?
Yeah, you know, as I will sign up, what I will tell the people of Ghana and the Commenda people is that, you know, the government does not have any agenda to ensure that this factory runs. It's all about ranting and keep promising. So it's better they advise themselves, or the people of Commenda, Edna Eguafo Abrem. And, you know, as the an MP was talking about the signpost, the 1D, 1F, that is why they took the loan from Prudential Bank and the guys of 1D, 1F to support the Komenda Sugar Factory to operation. And you know what? Prudential Bank is chasing the company. They want the company to repay the money, the $11 million that they've taken from them. So I would ask the government that they should do things properly so that Ghana will have some hope. Because what they want to do by importing raw sugar, it means that they cut off the job that we created for the outgrowers. So it means over 7,000 jobs will be lost, because for refining sugar, you don't need even 500 people to work from administration and everything. So let us walk the talk if indeed they really want this factory to run. That is all what I would say.
Okay, thank you. We're taking a break here on the polls. When we get back, we'll give you some more stories. Please stay. You're welcome back. MP for Dominic Sarah Adwoa Safo is apologizing to President Akufo-Addo and the New Patriotic Party for the controversies she sparked during her extended absence from parliamentary duties. In a video posted on Facebook, the former gender minister acknowledged that the negative actions she exhibited during the time were actually, of course, a situation that affected the party, and expressed regret. She also explained that the emotions were fueled by the complex personal challenges she was facing in her private life.
I wish to present my sincere apology to His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Chief of Staff Honorable Frema Osei Opare, the Majority Leader and the entire leadership of Parliament, my colleague members of Parliament, the entire Majority Caucus, the leadership of our great party, the National Chairman and the General Secretary, together with all your executives, the regional executives of Greater Accra, the constituency executives of Dominic, led by Chairman Bonsu, all polling station executives. I wish to state that I'm sincerely sorry. I apologize for my actions and inactions. None of my actions were intentional, deliberate, or calculated to bring disrepute to our great party. I was going through a lot as a mother and as a woman. I want to take this opportunity to ask for your forgiveness for anything untoward that I have done to bring the name of the party into disrepute. As the saying goes, to err is human and to forgive is divine. I ask for your forgiveness.
Going through a lot as a woman, and also matters facing her private life. Let's cross over now to the Dominic constituency. Joining us now is Samuel Mbura, who's live in the constituency, also interacting with those who are party members and reacting to this latest apology that we are receiving from Sarah Adwoa Safo. Sami Mbura, bring us up to speed with what's happening in the constituency.
So initially there was supposed to be an interview. We scheduled an interview with her and her team. That was supposed to be around 3 p.m. However, new developments have led to the postponement of that interview. I've been told she has equally important assignment elsewhere. She's currently in the crucial meeting. As to the details of that meeting that we don't know yet. But that's why we are unable to bring that live interview with Sarah Adwoa Safo. But since we came to the constituency here, there have been a lot of mixed reactions from her constituents. We floated the question as to whether they were aware that their MP Sarah Adwoa Safo was in the constituency or in the country. Some said they were not aware, some said they were aware, and then I followed up by asking them whether they were also in the known that their MP has rendered an apology to them for for all that she has done to them. And what they told me was that they don't know what they have done to their MP. They don't know what their MP has also done to them. But if she comes to apologize, yes, they accept her apology. However, if it is her intention to come back and contest the seat, then they are not ready to support her bid. When we came, we met the constituency secretary of the MPP, Mr. Theophilus Ansalabi, and he gave a strong message that they are sick and tired of Madam Adwoa Safo. She cannot hold the constituency to ransom with her actions. They think that it is a comeback tactics that has been adopted by Madam Adwoa Safo just to gain the sympathy of the people with this message. But they, as constituency executives, they have not been consulted. They just saw the video on the social media, and then they are yet to respond to her, or she's yet to meet them. But they have already made up their minds that they wouldn't put her up for the contest to represent the MPP in the Dom Kobinia constituency here. Some residents have also been reacting, as I said earlier. Some say, well, they've not done anything to her, but if she realizes that she has faulted, they'll forgive her and give her the needed support. So it has been a mixed reaction from the constituency here, where Madam Adwoa Safo is the MP for the area.
Colleague Samuel Mbura, who's still monitoring events for us and will be getting the very latest in our subsequent bulletins. But that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogan. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.